Welcome. Or if you've suffered through any of my other videos, welcome back to Making Sense of Jamaica. Homicide in Jamaica is a topic I normally stay away from, as there usually isn't much good to say about it. But while looking at the drop in homicides over the past 2 years, I noticed something in the figures that suggests we may be at a turning point. I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. So this is the JCF stats page. You'll notice that homicides are down 18.5% this year, up to December 28th, or a total of 1,138. Altogether, our murderers butchered a little over 3 human beings per day in 2024, on average. With 3 days left until the end of the year, I'm going to estimate the total number of people slaughtered in Jamaica at 1,145 for 2024. All right, so if we scroll down a bit. So this graph of homicides committed annually since 2001 is nice. When you hover over each year, it does show you the figures for each year. But for our purposes, the values for the less violent years could have been made more pronounced, and it's missing a total for 2023. So that's why I made my own version. Notice that my version includes the 2023 total, plus my estimate for this year. For 2024, that is. I've made the less barbaric years more pronounced so you can more easily see that since the year 2000, the murder rate has only been in this range during 2 separate periods. The first was in the early 2000s when homicides were just starting to climb above 1,000 per year consistently. And then the most recent was in the early 2010s after the Tivoli incursion that seemingly lowered rates for a few years. When you look at this graph, you'll notice that 2024 had the lowest homicides total of any year since 2014. So that's it for the graphs. Far more interesting and possibly more telling than the graphs. It's this simple spreadsheet I made. The first tab shows all of the years since 1962, where the number of homicides was lower than the previous year. Of 62 years, there were 26 years where the number of homicides dropped from the previous year. And of those 26, there are only 4 years where the total number of homicides dropped more than 18.5%. I have them highlighted. 1981 was the year after our bloodiest election. 2006 was the year after our bloodiest year ever. We had 1,674 homicides the year before in 2005. 2011 was the year after the Tivoli incursion. And 2018 was the year after our second bloodiest year. We had 1,647 homicides the year before in 2017. It looks like this is the first time we've had such a large drop in homicides in the absence of an unusual event. Now, that is somewhat interesting. Where I've listed all of the 2-year periods since independence. Apart from the past 2 years, there are only 2 other periods where the homicide rate dropped by more than 23% over 2 years. One was after the 1980 election, and the other was the years after the Tivoli incursion. Again, 2 of the ugliest events in our history. I'm not ready to call this a trend yet, but if we see another drop next year, or maybe work together to create one, I may start to believe that something is different this time around. We may be at the beginning of what will hopefully be a good long-term trend. Something looks and feels different about the drop in homicides over the past 2 years. Now, the last thing I want to say about this is that there are ways to determine whether the 2-year decline in homicides is statistically significant or not. But I just chose this method because it's simple and because I don't remember statistics. I mean, it's like 30 years since I went to university, so. Also, anybody can understand simple arithmetic. The unusual drop in homicides over the past 2 years is probably caused by several factors. Chief among them could be tougher gun laws passed at the end of 2022, a larger, more advanced and better resourced JCF, the lower unemployment rate over several years, the rise in social media commentators, such as Sir P, shedding light on how crime is taking place, and with very large and vocal followings, keeping the administration from trying to ignore the problem, or even make it worse, as several generations of politicians once did. And finally, I don't know if it's just me, but it seemed like there were a lot more instances where police found guns in public places based on tips received from the public or maybe the gunmen themselves. If gunmen chose to give up their illegal guns rather than risk being caught with them, that would be one of the strongest indicators of cultural change. So of that list of reasons, I suspect the tougher gun laws passed at the end of 2022 had the most influence over the 2-year drop. And I fear that plans to weaken those laws in 2025 may derail the progress we've made so far. Jamaican politicians have a long history of not leaving what's working alone and retarding or reversing our development as a nation in the process. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, feel free to list the reasons you think homicide rates have dropped by so much over the past 2 years. Now, before I close out this video, I just want to be clear. I am fully aware that the homicide rate is still outrageously high, as it has been for over 50 years, and will have to drop by over 90% from 2024 levels before it reaches a level that could be considered civil.